we are going to be talking about the coordinate plane and graphing. You all have been used to, up until now, just graphing in this quadrant right here. This is what you have seen when you go out the X and up the Y. You are seeing just this one quadrant. All positive numbers. Positive 1 through 5. Positive 1 through 5. And you know that this means that these continue to go on. But the coordinate plane has 4 quadrants. This is a number line, a horizontal number line. Here's the 0. We go positive in that direction and negative in that direction. This is your x-axis. Then we have another number line that goes vertically. 0 is right here in the middle. The positive numbers go up and the negative numbers go down. We have looked at both kinds of number lines. We've looked at horizontal and we have looked at vertical. We talk about vertical a lot when we're talking about temperature because the thermometer runs this way. And we've also talked about a vertical when we're talking about sea level. Sea level would be the 0, and then anything below the surface of the water would be a negative number. And anything above it would be a what? A positive number. So you need to be able to imagine this coordinate plane in your head as 2 number lines crossing, and they intersect at, what is this called? Does anybody know? The origin. They cross each other at the origin, which is a 0, 0. All right, so the first thing we need to do is we need to we need to fold. We are going to fold. And you're going to take this left side and fold it in so we can see quadrant 2 and quadrant 3. And you're going to take the right side and fold it in as well. And I am going to go through and I'm going to cut off some of these little extra pieces so that all of that is gone. So we can cut off all those extra pieces if you like. All right, you may also want to cut apart these different quadrants so that each little window opens on its own. So it should look like that. Okay, so one of the first things you need to know is there are 4 quadrants. This would be called quadrant 1, Q1. You normally are going to see that written in Roman numerals. This one over here is going to be quadrant 2. It seems backwards. You would think you would start here and then go here because we read left to right. But this one's 1, this one's 2. Quadrant 3 looks like this. The Roman numeral 3 looks like 3 I's put together. You need to be writing the Roman numeral. That's what I expect you to write, is the Roman numeral. Q3. And the Roman numeral for quadrant 4 is a Q, and then it's an I and a V put together. V means 5, and a 1 before it means 1 before 5. What number is 1 before 5? 4. That is where they get Roman numeral 4 from. The V is a 5. The 1 before it means 1 before 5, which is 4. Okay? Now, one of the ways that I help, that helps me think about where the quadrants are, one of the ways I think about it is this is called a coordinate plane. So if I were to draw the letter C for coordinate plane, I would start my pencil here. So this would be quadrant 1, 2, 3, and if I go this way, 4. So think about how you would draw the letter C on the coordinate plane. And if you started top to bottom, you would start at quadrant 1, 2, 3, 4. Does that make sense? That's usually a way that helps people remember where the quadrants are. And you're going to have to know that. All right. So let's write a definition for the origin. The origin is where the x and the y axis intersect. So we're going to write the, and then here's the word, the origin. Let me zoom in a little bit. Is where the x and the y axis intersect at 0, 0. And I'm going to draw an arrow that shows that the origin is right here. And you should have a dot that shows that it is this point right here. That is the origin. All right, the x-axis. The x-axis is this horizontal axis right here. This is the x-axis. This is the one that you graph first. You graph the x-axis first. It could be a positive number or it could be a negative number. All right. What is the vertical one called? It's called the y-axis. This vertical one is called the y-axis. And it could be positive numbers above 0, or it could be negative numbers below 0. Bless you. All right, so we're going to write a little note here. We use the x and the y, and the x was our green one. And the y, have it match your colors. Whatever you colored the x-axis up here, color it down here. We use the x and the y to name locations. It's the way that we give a name to locations on the coordinate grid. And one of the hints is you have to run before you can rise. You have to run before you can rise. Okay, the running is going to be our x. And the rising is going to be our y. You have to run before you rise. So what that means is we have to move on this x axis. We have to run one way or the other before we can rise, before we can go up or we can go down. I've often heard it called, I must walk over to the ladder. before I can climb up the ladder or down the ladder, like into the pool, down the ladder. So you have to walk over to the ladder before you can climb up the ladder or down the ladder. So whatever it is that helps you remember, you have to find the X coordinate before you find the Y coordinate. All right, so anything in quadrant 1 is going to be a positive number and a positive number. Okay, this Q1 is a positive. Why? Because my X's are all positives and my Y's are all positive. So a positive is going to be over here in quadrant 1. And let's graph 1, 1. That means I must go, 2, 2. I must go over to 2 and up to 2, 1, 2. And my dot must be right at the intersection of those two. Now, if it was 2 and a half, I would go halfway between 2 and 3 and halfway between 2 and 3. So I could possibly have a dot in the middle. But since these are whole numbers, it's going to be right there. This quadrant is a positive. You must be able to tell me that. If I asked you about the coordinates in quadrant 1, you should say they are positive. When I was learning it, I had to think, well, I go over to the positive number and then I go up. So over to the right is positive and going up is positive on a number line. Let's look at quadrant 2. Quadrant 2, your X is going to be a negative and your Y is going to be a positive. Because if I start here at 0 and I need to go to my X and it's a negative, I'm going to go that way. So, quadrant 2 are negative numbers, and your Y is a positive number. So let's graph negative 3, 3. Starting at 0, go over to negative 3, and up to 3. 1, 2, 3. And it is right here. I think I'm going to draw an arrow over to these so I see what I've been doing. That ordered pairs right there. I think I'll go back over here and draw an arrow to this one. All right. Quadrant 3. Our ordered pair is going to be a negative number and a negative number. Because anything here, I have to go negative to get this way. And to go down here, I have to use a negative integer. So, quadrant 3 is a negative. To graph negative 1, I go over negative 1 and down negative 1. And that ordered pair is right there. And this last one, quadrant 4 is a positive X and a negative Y. I would have to move in the positive direction, and then my Y is going to be down here in the negative direction. So I would graph this one as going to positive 4, negative 1, and that point should be right there. All right. Are there any questions about anything that we've written on here? So we have to apply some of it before it's going to start to make sense. But let's go ahead and let's put this in our journal. And it is called the coordinate plane. And I have that we're going to be on page 43. Is that correct? Okay. Make sure you get that entered into your table of content, the coordinate plane. 2. And that's glued onto that page. So you should be able to answer questions about the coordinate plane, but you should also be able to just recreate the information about the coordinate plane. Next week you will have a quiz. You'll be given a plain white sheet of paper. It will look like this. Plain white sheet of paper. Alright. You will be responsible for putting your name, date, and block. You will then draw a coordinate plane. You will have to tell me this is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, this is quadrant 3, and this is quadrant 4. You must write them, excuse me, in Roman numerals. You must tell me this is the x-axis. This one is called the what? Y-axis. You will have to say this is the, what is that? Origin. And you will have to tell me that quadrant 1 is the positive quadrant. You will have to tell me this one is the negative positive quadrant. What's 3? Negative quadrant. And quadrant 4 is the positive negative. These are the two that people confuse all the time. If you can put all of that on there, you get a 100. You have to do it just like I did it. Okay?
Do we have to do it with highlighter?
No. You won't have to do it with highlighter. Okay? So, if you are forgetting this one, if you start here and you go this way, is this positive or is this negative? Negative. That helps you figure out that's negative. And then you go up, and is this positive or negative? Going up is positive. You can think about two number lines. These are all positive numbers. These are all negative numbers. These are positive, and these are negative. So over here, my x is going to be negative, and my y is going to be negative. This way, my x is going to be positive, and my y is going to be negative. But you will be responsible for doing this on a plain white sheet of paper. Now, there will be something on the board that says, mark the origin, name the quadrants, tell if they're, label the positives and negatives. There'll be something on the board that tells you to do all of those things. But you will be responsible for knowing where they all go. Okay? All right, we might do a practice run. Maybe Wednesday, and then take the quiz on Friday. All right, let's look at the skills practice. You have a skills practice about the coordinate plane. Let me zoom in because this little grid over here is teeny tiny. All right, so the directions for this first section say use the coordinate plane at the right. Identify the point for each ordered pair. This means I need to go to -2, +4, and tell what point lies there. So, I always start at my origin. I need to go -2 on the x-axis. That's this way. 1, 2. Then I need to go +4. That's straight up. 1, 2, 3, 4. What point is at that ordered pair? S. We're going to mark S. Does everyone see why it's S? You had to go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Y would be what? What would be the ordered pair for Y? Negative 1, positive 3. All right. Let's try the ordered pair for negative 2, negative 3. So I'm starting at 0. I go 2 in the negative, 1, 2. And then I go 3 in the negative. 1, 2, 3. What point is there? T. Do you all get the idea of how to do this? Yes? Not too difficult? Okay, let's go to this next section. This says use the coordinate plane above, so we're still using this coordinate plane. Write the ordered pair that names each point. Then identify the quadrant. So, ordered pair and quadrant for this section. Ordered pair and quadrant. All right, so let's find K. Here's K. What's the ordered pair? So start at 0 and I move 1 in the positive direction. And then I'm going to go up, so that's positive, and I go up 1, 2, 3. So that ordered pair is 1, 3. And what quadrant would this be in?
Q1.
Quadrant 1. Because remember, if we draw a C, we start here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So my quadrant is quadrant 1. All right, let's try the ordered pair for L. Here's L right here. So if I start at 0, am I going to go positive or negative? Negative. I'm going to go negative 1, 2, 3. Oh, wait a minute. 1, 2, 3. Negative 3. I might need some glasses to see that thing. Okay, and then from here, I'm going to go down. Is that positive or negative? Negative, so another negative, and then I'm going to go negative 1, 2, 3, 4. Negative 4. And what quadrant is that in?
Quadrant 3.
Quadrant 3. Do you have any questions about those? No? Okay. And this last part says, identify the quadrant where each point is located. So you're just telling quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. Okay? So you can use this if you need to, or you could draw this. And like we know, this one is positive, positive. Use this as practice. Label these, and then if you have this here, it might help you do this. What quadrant is this? Quadrant 1. This one is quadrant 2. The next one is quadrant 3. And the last one is quadrant 4. All right. I'm going to give you some time to work on these.